Welcome to the Evolving Sound of Warcraft panel. Your panelists are Andrew Brock, Russell Brower, Mike Johnson, and Andrea Toyias.
Everyone, welcome to Azeroth 2013. I'm Russell Brower from Kurthaven. I'm a little taller, maybe, than you expected. You play the game, come on. I'm Russell Brower. I'm the director of audio and one of the composers at Blizzard Entertainment. And it's just thank you. It's my great honor and privilege to welcome you all to the 2013 BlizzCon sound panel. Thank you so much for coming. It would not be a sound panel if we didn't have live music, right? Any of you seen us before? Cool. Well, I think we got some live music here. Now, some of you may know that some of your favorite pieces from World of Warcraft, to be politically correct, I'll say both Stormwind and Orgrimmar, were written by this gentleman right here, Jason Hayes. Jason is back to stay at Blizzard Entertainment, I'm happy to say. And he's brought a few friends with him in the form of the band Critical Hit. Many of these people you've heard on our soundtracks. So they're going to start by, evolving the sound of Warcraft. In this case, evolving the sounds of the classic Jason Hayes piece, Legends of Azeroth. Enjoy.
You guys ready to play some World of Warcraft?
Critical Hit and Jason Hayes and company, everyone. Give it up. Wow. So we're going to have more of these fine folks playing at the very end. So just to give you a quick overview, we're going to talk about the evolving sound of Warcraft, and that would include Hearthstone. Yeah. And we will have some Q&A for a few minutes, and then, but we'll keep that a little on the tight side because I want to be sure that you hear these folks. They've got more for you. So welcome to the evolving sound of Warcraft. I said that already. To help me discuss this and share all this with you, I'd like to introduce our panel. First off, the supervising sound designer for the World of Warcraft. Please welcome the amazing Mr. Michael Johnson. And celebrating this week 13 years at Blizzard Entertainment, the original sound designer, one of them, from World of Warcraft, Mr. Brian Farr. Also, our esteemed voiceover and casting director, Andrea Toyias. And to represent Hearthstone, again, we had to evolve. We had to bring from across the pond someone whose accent should tell you that he knows what he's doing. Welcome, Mr. Andy Brock. When you hear him speak, you will swoon. You two ladies. And finally, the composer from Hearthstone, Mr. Peter McConnell. Welcome. How are our slides? We have slides and we do have them. It doesn't matter. So, first off, we're going to talk about Warcraft. And I'm just going to spend a few moments on the music, because I'd rather have you hear music than talk about it. And so, there we go. We've got slides. Now, when you want to evolve, when we're doing Warlords of Draenor, what, do we want to do something new and different? And sometimes when you evolve, you need to look at where you came from. And as we often do when we start a project, I spend some quality time with Chris Metzen, and when we're done partying, we then discuss what the heart and soul of these projects, and he has never failed to give me the inspiration I need for whatever I have to do. And in this case, I asked him, well, what does new and different mean? Because I had heard a few people say, we want something new and different for Warlords of Draenor. And you know what? We realized that means going back, actually, to the roots of World of Warcraft's music scape. And so credit where credit is due. The late, great Basil Polidorus did a score classic now called Conan the Barbarian. And if you listen to specifically Anvil of Crom, you will hear the DNA of the World of Warcraft score, and it's really cool. And Chris said, start there, make it more spiky. It should put your eyes out. It should hurt. This is the Iron Horde. So instead of playing this music for you here and all that, you've actually heard a lot of it during the announcement yesterday. And it's playing all over the hall, so please, keep an ear out for it. With that, I'll leave the music alone, and let's move on to sound design for Warlords of Draenor. So with that, Michael's got some stuff that he wants to share that is coming soon to a World of Warcraft near you.
Coming soon to expansion near you. Hello, everyone. How many people, hands up real quick, how many people made it to the opening ceremony or the What's Next panel? Okay. All right, so you obviously know that there's a lot of things, new things that are happening in this expansion, Warlord of Draenor. So I'm going to talk about the sound design really quick. There's 4 things, but we're doing a whole bunch of things, but these are some of the things that we wanted to tackle this expansion. So first of all are the new player models. Obviously, this is the new orc model. And in this expansion, there are going to be updated player models for a lot of the original races for the game. And one of the things that we wanted to do to help bring these new models to life is to embellish the vocalizations that they have, their attacks, wounds, and deaths, aggros, and everything else. And the really good thing about this is that when you're fighting these guys, you know, you will cut down on that repetition that you hear, you know, when you're killing them, engaging them in battle. And actually, if you actually go to the demo area and actually play the Frostfire experience, you can actually hear some of these guys, and also the Shadow Moon experience as well. So moving on.
Well, I see what you did there.
See that? Yeah, I got that. I have a spy in the audience with the clicker. Next thing we want to do is footsteps. Footsteps, often overlooked, but they're a really good way to get feedback of the environment with your character. So right now there's a very small set of footstep sounds that are shared across all the races and the creatures in the game. And something that we wanted to touch on this expansion was to actually embellish these and add more variations as well. So right now there's about 6 surface types in the game, but there's a myriad of different terrain types that you actually walk on as you explore the world. And so we're going to add new surfaces to that. So when you're actually running through a swamp, it'll sound like a swamp. Whenever you're running over glass, it will sound like glass, et cetera, et cetera. So how we did this is that we went to a professional Foley stage in Hollywood and got to work with one of the best Foley artists in the film business. And of course, since we can't actually have an orc run all the different services, he has to pretend to be all these different all these different creatures and player classes. And for the first time in World of Warcraft, you'll actually have unique footstep kits for some of the races. Examples would be Tauren, Draenei, and Goblin, to name a few. Moving on. The next thing I wanted to talk to you about, and something that that's really close to my heart and something that I really like, are all the creature sounds. One of the reasons why I play Blizzard games, especially World of Warcraft, and one of the things I really like doing is exploring the world and then finding all these new creatures that are announced and then killing them. So so what we wanted to do, again, just like the player races, we wanted to actually add to the variations. And this is a really good example of things that we've been doing that's a good evolution of the sound ever since the game shipped. Slowly but surely, we've been able to add more and more variations to all the creatures, most notably starting in Cataclysm, and then definitely on Mists of Pandaria. So on this next expansion, if go to the next slide. Next slide. There we go.
I love those effects.
Dramatic pause. I'm like, anyway, so what we did for Mists of Pandaria was that there were tigers, and we actually went out and recorded tigers in that for that expansion. And so for this expansion, Warlords of Draenor, we wanted to go out, identify all the creatures that are going to be new in this expansion, and then trying to get real sounds of them. And a couple of our guys went out there and recorded wolves for this expansion. So for the Frostfire wolves and their for their wolves, they're actually wolf recordings. So when you're actually in the demo area today, you can actually hear some of these in the background, and when you play the game today.
It looks dangerous.
It was dangerous. Yeah, Chris came back unscathed, so he lived to live another day. And the last thing I want to talk to you about are updating the working sounds. So this would be blacksmithing and mining predominantly. And the reason why we're doing this is just, again, to enhance the variation that we have in the game, so it's less repetitious when you're actually mining and crafting and blacksmithing. So how we went about doing this is that we actually went to an actual blacksmith and had him bang on almost everything in this huge shop. and he had, you were there, I mean, it was,
He had like,
half a dozen anvils that are 300 pounds.
and then he
or
started
something.
pulling out these tiny anvils. It was like 50, I think, by the end of the day this guy had in his shop. It was incredible.
Yeah,
And
it
he
was
looks
pretty-
like a blacksmith. So.
Yeah, exactly. He looks like, you know, like Russell's brother,
Yeah,
I think.
was going to say, apparently my cousin or something.
I don't know what his musical ability is. But anyway, moving it, to finish up real quick, so we recorded a whole bunch of material that we're going to add to, for all the working sounds, especially for the blacksmithing and for the mining sounds. And again, thank you for coming, and I'll pass it back to Russell.
So it's often true that for sound people that as much as we're so passionate and we have to be about what we do, our best work goes unnoticed, and that's on purpose. If you notice what we're doing, then probably we failed in some way. So that's really why, you know, we want to eliminate that repetition, because these are sounds that you're going to hear a lot of, and we don't want to be annoying. We want to increase immersion. Now, earlier you heard me mention sometimes when you evolve, you got to look back at where you started. And such was the case with spells. And Brian spent some time working on another project, and when he came back to World of Warcraft and working with some of our newer staff members, he told an amazing story about how he first, you know, conceived of the spell sounds for World of Warcraft that lived on to this day. So, Brian, if you would give that story to us.
Sure. So, a big part of World of Warcraft has always been the awesome use of color. And I don't have to tell you hardly even what that color even means, because you probably have learned over these years where all these schools of magic come from just by looking at a spell effect. So let's turn the color on for him here and let him see all these. This is an awesome slide, by the way. I love this picture. So if you guys all look up at the screen back here and over there, just by looking at this, I bet you all of you in this room who play WoW can probably identify what schools of magic each of these spells come from, even though they're not even captured in game, because of the use of color. This was something that we honed in on early on, and we knew we had to figure out a way to get our sounds to perfectly match. We started with the precast, and not only because the precasts were the first thing for the most part that players heard and also visually seen, but it was also a place where we can have a sound build over 3 to 5 seconds. And in the sound world, you know, we all know that 3 to 5 seconds is a big deal for us, because usually we have a split second to make something happen on the screen. We took a simple wind recording for the nature precast to start out, and what we did was we manipulated it and EQ'd it in a way and processed it where it almost sounded like a musical chord. And the reason for this was because music has a way of making you feel happy, sad, and you can remember it almost instantly. You can hear a song on the radio driving down the street and you've never heard it before, and it will make you can tell what the story is in the music. It's a lot harder to do that with sound design. So taking this approach where we were tuning the precast to sound like a musical chord, it would kind of give the player something to remember. And this was a huge part of how we brought these sounds in all the precasts that you hear today. And not only when we put them in the game did the sounds perfectly match to the colors we were seeing, players were also able to hear, even in the alpha, what was going on behind them and know what was happening all around in their surroundings. So when you're playing in a raid or whatever, that's why you can identify these things. We started with this musical chord idea. Once we had that foundation perfectly established, we were able to take that idea and put it into the missiles, into the impacts, into the cast that you hear. And even though we have evolved tremendously since the very beginning of this project, with new sound designers coming aboard and just doing amazing work, we've always had that foundation to go back to. And it's just been an awesome experience to see where it's gone. But you may not realize this, but over the last 12 years, we have history that goes all the way back 12 years of sound design in a single game. I don't know of any game that exists that actually has 12 years of sound design that goes all the way up from something you can hear in 2001 next to a sound that you can hear that we just released in the latest patch. So obviously we have our work totally cut out for us to not only evolve, but keep the history of the project going forward. So with that, of course, sometimes, you know, it's hard to obviously look through the, you know, the dark portal or whatever, and not only look back in time, but look forward into the future and know what's going to stand the test of time and what isn't, you know, what does stand the test of time and what isn't going to stand the test of time. Which is a question I'm going to ask you guys. How many players out there have hunters? Okay, let's do that one more time really loud so the people watching live can hear you too. Again, hunters. Okay. Now you're getting me excited. Because when we found out you guys were transmogging your rifles to not hear the sounds anymore, we were like, okay, yeah. Worst cheer ever we have to hear. No, we knew, I mean, when we started out as a little team and we had what we had to work with, we did our best to make it the awesome experience, and it worked really well in the first, you know, box product. But going forward, I said, well, what the hell, what are they talking about? I'm like, I'm gonna play a hunter. And I hadn't played a hunter for a while, and I was like, these freaking gun sounds are awful. Who made these? Who made these sounds? And I was like, oh my God. So I take full responsibility, but you know what? Next slide, please. Yeah. Yes, damn it, finally. You're welcome. You're welcome. We're really excited because with the new models that have come out, and it's just, okay, so you know what? We're not just going to do the rifles for you. We're going to do the bows and the crossbows as well. So, okay, new experience, and I'm going to shut up. You know why? We have a video to show you, and it's captured in-game. You can even go over and play a hunter and hear him right now for yourself. Thank you.
Nice and loud, please.
Take that. New sounds coming in the next expansion. Thank you.
Awesome, Brian, thank you. Another very important part of what we do is voiceover. Voice communication, it's the most direct path for storytelling, and that must evolve too. Andrea, tell us what you've wrought.
Hey guys. First of all, I want to say a huge thank you for coming out. We are all audio junkies ourselves, so to look out and see a room full of people who care about audio like we do, huge gratitude to all of you. So big love and cuddles for being here. So it's really exciting.
Indeed.
Thank you. So voiceover in World of Warcraft is amazing and fantastic and challenging because in no other titles of ours do we have as many races and cultures and mythologies and lores and characters to bring to life like we have in Warcraft. You know, with each race we've got lots of color in there, lots of infusion of personalities, and lots of character arcs, so it's quite challenging. But it's so exciting. I think it's actually, don't tell anybody, it's between you and I, that it's probably my favorite game because there's so much color and so many things we get to play with. So it's been an interesting journey for the VO in World of Warcraft. In the early days when we launched, you know, you guys probably know this, it was a lot of our programmers, internal people doing VO, because none of us could have predicted the success of this title. So we're like, you know, let's just get, you know, Joe in programming to do it. But obviously that didn't last for long because the game kind of got a little bit popular. And so it's been a journey for us. So we first kind of had local people doing it, our local internal staff. Then we reached out to the local acting community for our early expansions. And that lasted through Wrath of the Lich King. And then by Cataclysm times, we wanted to mix it up a little bit. So I spent 2 months, as some of you might, if you heard the behind the scenes, spent 2 months in New York working with some Broadway stage actors to bring our, for example, Greymane royal family to life. Worked with some great, authentic New Yorkers for wonderful goblins. I still love Trade Prince Scallywix so very much. He's a rock star. So it was really fun to evolve that way and go to New York and work with a whole new talent pool. But then Mr. Pandaria came, and that was a huge cornerstone for us because we actually signed on with the Screen Actors Guild. The Screen Actors Guild usually represents film and TV actors, but they also do video games. And by signing on with them, we were able to really bring in the kind of top-shelf voice talent to bring our pandas and our Jinyu and our Hosen and our Yongle and all our great races to life. I think that was particularly important because the mythology and characters in the world of Pandaria I'm so deeply in love with. So to find a good Chen Storm Stout, for example, was particularly exciting. So yes, love our Chen Storm Stout. So now, right when I think I've got everything sorted, now I get this new expansion, Warlords of Draenor, all about our wonderful race of orcs. But they are so goddamn hard to cast because you've got to A, find that voice, and you've got to find people who can act with that voice. And so I'm excited because I always love a challenge, and I always love bringing new clans and so forth to life in World of Warcraft. But it's going to be an interesting. I'm going to be looking under every nook and cranny, probably nationally, possibly even globally, to find just the right orcs to bring our new interesting characters to life. Because to have that texture and find nuances is going to be fun. So I'm excited. So I hope to do good work for you. We're going to look everywhere to find our great orcs, and I think Warlords of Draenor is going to be pretty fantastic.
And you can meet and hear a lot of these voices at the voice stage.
We have a voice actor stage if you haven't been to it, which is pretty cool. So we've got a bunch of cool stuff happening today, so please come by and say hi. We'd love to cuddle you. Right? Here we go.
And thank you, Andrea. We obviously, it's hard to talk about sound, and I would love to play you more, but again, it's all out there in the demo, so please, check it out, because in context is the best way, so please be sure and check that out. Before we go to Hearthstone, a quick commercial break. We have released 2 new BlizzCon exclusive CDs, and they're at the store. The first one is Mist of Pandaria, Volume 2. Check it out. And StarCraft, Heart of the Swarm, Volume 2. And you can only get these here at BlizzCon, so please check them out. Now, thank you. So, Hearthstone. This is worthy of its own slide, for one thing. The Hearthstone team approached us early on with this project, and it was so different from anything else we had ever done. It posed a lot of challenges, especially given the notion that, yeah, we should mention, Andy Brock has his own card. Are those your superpowers?
Hi, everyone. I just want to say that that card is actually hiding a fair few very talented sound guys and musicians and voice actors. It's not just me. It wasn't a solo effort.
We, they told us, it's our first free-to-play, it's our first casual game, it's going to be on mobile, and but we love what you do. They tell us we love all the music you do for Warcraft. We love the sound design. It's epic, it's bold, it's awesome, and we want none of that in our game. So what are we to do? Well, that's what these gentlemen are going to help us suss out here, because it was quite a challenge. It's like, we have to ask ourselves, what's the role of sound in the game? It's definitely the same Warcraft universe, but we're clearly asking us for a different vibe. Would you say?
That's right, Russell. Yeah, it was. It's really. The game takes place in a tavern in Azeroth, and it can be any tavern. And they really wanted this kind of comfortable, friendly, good-natured vibe of just playing a board game, and putting all the Horde versus Alliance rivalry to one side. So it's kind of like an armistice.
Right. So I mean, you can play as an Alliance, but have Horde minions, which is, either way you turn that up, that's kind of awesome, right? Like
yeah.
The other side is your slaves. It's awesome. Yeah.
It's really strange because you can play as Uther as a paladin, but you have like a Frostwolf Grunt or Murlocs, which is so. It's really about the actual tokens themselves as game pieces.
but they kept telling us, don't stray too far, for those sounds they told us not to use. We want to be iconic and reassuring that this is a game that's friendly and fun and not an epic battle. So I think at some point we realized music would help us out with that a lot. So we needed help because we do epic, we do bold, we do that well. Help, Peter. I'd like to introduce Peter McConnell. He came to our minds, and I just have to say, one of my favorite games from the iconic days of LucasArts was Grim Fandango, scored by this gentleman right here. Peter, I knew you'd have the sense of humor, a wry way of looking at our world differently. What finally turned the corner for you?
Well, it was interesting because when Russell first called me about this, and I saw the art from the game, I was like, wow, this is World of Warcraft, but it's really different. It's lighter. So how do you do epic light? And I think we started out with this concept of epic light. So I did a couple sketches that were sort of a combination of light orchestral and kind of Celtic bar scene music. And when I actually saw them play in the game, I think my reaction was, this ain't working. So what is it? How do you score? Because you don't just score a picture, you actually score a game. So the turning point for me was when we actually went into the sort of test area, and there were a couple of guys actually playing this game. Yeah. And they were...
You saw a live grudge match.
I saw a live match, and let me tell you, it just completely changed my entire, my entire worldview at that moment. I mean, here were two guys trash talking each other, oh no, I got you, no, wait till you see this, and what I realized was that, card games, or the idea of a card game is actually a very tough guy kind of thing. There's a lot of battle that goes on at a card table. I mean, that's why people watch, poker, right? And there's the Wild West and so on. There's a great deal of cultural weight behind the idea of a card game standoff. And so I didn't know quite what to do with that. But when I got home and started working on it, I realized that there was this element missing, which was the blues, basically. And I don't know, is that guitar working? Is it plug-inable?
Uh-oh. A musician is about to wield his weapon. I tried to learn something from Jay Moore last night about vamping.
About what?
About vamping. So, a priest, a mage, and a paladin walk into a tavern.
So I don't know.
But before they can get anything out, some dwarf comes up and says, shut it, you maggots, and let's play some Hearthstone.
Sounds like this can be heard out there, right? So you start out with something that's just sort of, a little more traditional sounding. Oh, thank you. I've been screwing that riff up all morning. But then there's this element after that of just the groove, right? That kind of thing. And that's what I found when I started. This is actually going to be guitar music. So that the whole shift changed from being like a sort of a small orchestra thing, or maybe maybe a little bit of a pub band sound, to really being a pub band with a cranking guitar, and then sort of a lot of winds that we brought in, a contrabassoon, and I mean, I could go on and on about this, but
So we have live players to keep it human feeling.
Exactly.
You know, just because it's a casual game doesn't mean it's automatically, okay, let's just go synth.
Right, and we recorded some wonderful players, bassoon, contrabassoon, bass clarinet, and clarinet, along with the guitar, and it just gave it that sort of ancient sound of having these low winds with the guitar, and you know, just live people cranking away.
So, with all of this, Andy, what's in the box? Because, you know, it looks like a game box. Yeah, use that mic or else there.
What's in the which box? Oh, right.
Yeah. It looks like a box. We have, I think, you know, we realize this is less about literal card sounds, although we do need tactile audio feedback and all of that. We do have epic moments. How does it play out in this game?
Well, we really focused on making it a very chilled out sounding game, you know, because you could be playing the game and thinking, and it's about strategy. It's not about all out action. So we made sure that the basic mood in the tavern, you know, was like very, very chilled out. But then when really big events happen, like when you play, you know, Deathwing, or if you obliterate a large number of cards, you know, that the crowd react accordingly, and there's like a musical stinger, you know, it's a moment. It really jumps out at you. And so far, you know, the feedback in the forums and in our test have been really, really good, you know, really positive for that.
And you can play this out on the floor, so please check it out. We'll have a final thought here in a second, but I just wanted to say, because I want to be sure when we get the band in, if you have some questions, please feel free to queue up in the usual spots, and we'll do that in just a moment. So finally, Andy, is there, in working on this, is there anything that can give us examples of something that did not work?
Oh yeah. Initially, back in the alpha, we had the idea of having the crowd laugh at you when you lost, which was about as popular as a lead Zeppelin leaving Orgrimmar. We had reports. I think Jay Wilson was angry. Don't
overinflate that Zeppelin joke.
You know, so
Jay's hot air.
So basically, you know, we toned that back down to be, you know, a more sporting kind of like, oh, you know, bad luck, and you know.
They do react though, don't they?
Oh yeah.
That's actually kind of cool.
Yeah, a huge part of the sound design is just the background crowd, you know, and how they react. It just adds that nice feedback, you know, when you play a really good move.
And finally, you did sneak some old sounds in there, almost unscathed, right?
Oh yeah, we did. We remastered all the sounds that were used from the archives, like Murlocs and stuff like that. One particular sound, the Job's Done, which Job's Done, which goes back to 1995, and we got that source recording and we remastered it, and it's being played in Hearthstone clearer and brighter and louder than it's ever been heard before. So, and we still use these sounds because they still resonate with you guys to this day. You know, it's not like they're just old sounds that we don't want to use anymore. They are still good sounds, so that's why we put them in Hearthstone.
So again, check it out on the floor. Thanks, you guys. Do we have any questions? Did anyone step up to the mic over there?
Hello. Hi. This is mostly for Russell. My question is, throughout the expansions, I felt that the music has gotten, you know, way more thematic and melodic. And I was just wondering, like, starting in Burning Crusade, it was a very atmospheric, and, you know, throughout Wrath and Kata and Mists of Pandaria, it's got, you know, very thematic and melodic. And my question is that, like, you know, more of a stylistic choice, like wanting to one-up each other, you know, each expansion? Or is it more like, now that you've gotten more resources, like more live instruments or more orchestral, you know, sessions? And, you know, that's basically it. Yeah.
Awesome question. I'd like to say that every expansion is different, and we start each one from scratch. And again, I think about, you know, those chats I have with Chris Metzen. Mists of Pandaria is an awesome example of where there were certain things we didn't want to do. we didn't want to sound like a certain Panda film series. Not because we didn't love those films, but because we felt it was too over the top. And, but we knew we wanted some kind of Asian overlay. So Chris, he told us, you know, music is a good opportunity to remind us we're still in Azeroth. So that guided us there. And so I'd say the art guides us. Certainly, as WoW is successful, we put that money back into the game and hire more of these wonderful folks. Thank you.
So my question is more in regards to voiceovers. When you're building an expansion, I know that you get the sneak peek of what the dialogue is. At what point in the expansion are you getting 5.4 voices done compared to building 5.0 voices?
I'm not sure I understand the question. So at what point are we thinking about the
So
the patch VO versus expansion VO?
Yes. At what point are you getting the dialogue all at once and you're building 5.0 to 5.0?
Oh, I see. I wish we did. That's another challenge. World of Warcraft is so different in the fact, you know, when we do Diablo or StarCraft, we do kind of all the VO in one fell swoop. But with WoW, we don't. We work on the expansion, that we finish that storyline, and then all these smaller storylines come up, and quite often they're quite different than our initial expansion. A whole new section, a whole new area, a whole new voice kit. So it's really, we kind of learn as we go, and I think once our expansion hits and we realize what's successful and kind of work on that area and bring that out in the expansions. So it's not all in one go. We kind of take it piece by piece and see how people respond and what we're going to do. Does that answer your question? Kind of? Okay.
Thank you. We have time for one or two more, because I definitely want to hear this band. Who do we have?
Hi. Huge fan of the music. It's so amazing. I love the orchestral stuff. So my question is, what is the biggest orchestra you've actually recorded? And also, when you're not using an orchestra, what kind of sound libraries do you use, if you even need that?
Sound what?
Sound libraries.
Libraries. You know, I'll just say I'll have Mike address the libraries. I guess the biggest orchestra we probably used was for Diablo 3, the initial release. It was our local family of musicians, the Pacific Symphony. What an amazing group. Recorded in a giant hall, the Segerstrom Hall, and there's no other way to get a sound like that. So it was really special. Mike, real quick on the libraries, and we will hear the band.
You know, the usual ones, Sound Ideas, Hollywood Edge. There's, again, so many that are out there.
But there's a caveat.
A lot of boom library,
we don't want to recognize them, right?
Oh, yeah, it's true. I mean, they're just building blocks. I mean, it's like in a piece of stone, and we chisel what we want out via EQs and processing. And then our big thing, mostly in these new expansions, is going out and recording as much new material as we can.
I want to, if you have any other questions, please come up after, probably over here to the side, and we will absolutely answer your questions. So thank you. Thanks for attending. I want to turn it back over to Jason Hayes and his amazing band, Critical Hit, and they're going to start off with our very own Peter McConnell's Hearthstone, Heroes of Warcraft, main title, although decidedly progressive and rockin'. This is not how it appears in the game, but it's going to be very cool. Take it, you guys.
No.
1 second.
All right, Hearthstone. So next we have something really special planned. This is from the world of Diablo. We're going to play a selection of themes that are featured in the new Diablo 3 expansion, Reaper of Souls. Who out here is a fan of StarCraft? We're going to play the Terran music from Wings of Liberty. Let's do it. Go Carlitos! All right, let's go! Thank you very much. We got something to rock for the last one here. This is a theme that represents the might and the glory of the world of Warcraft and Azeroth. This one's called A Call to Arms.